This week, I would like to make a tool to set the rivet heads so I have a nice consistently round head. So I'm going to do a little bit of experimenting. So my experiment is that nowhere on the internet have I found where it says the correct size of the rivet head per each stock. So this right here is a 1/2 inch ball punch. I'm thinking that that is probably going to fit either 3/8 or 5/16 inch material. So I'm going to make the tool first, and then I'm going to check it against one of these. Now most likely I think it's going to be the 3/8, and if it looks good whenever I'm done, then I'll just kind of use that as a reference point to make the rest of the heading tools for the 1/2 inch, the 1/4 inch, and the 5/16. Alright, so my first prototype is ready. I cut some of that material off. I was way too long. I misjudged that. But I am going to use my ball punch and strike right there once I get that hot. And that will give my ball punch a guide so I don't walk out of that groove. And I'm going to drive that thing home to where it makes a nice deep impression. Then I can trim up my sides on the grinder. So I have figured out that a 1/2 inch ball punch makes a rivet header that is for 1/4 inch. So I need to be a 1/4 inch heavy. Now these kept falling over to the side. Really didn't have any luck with squaring them up, but usually 1/4 inch tends to wander on me quite a bit. But I am going to try this to make a couple more of these, a 1/4 inch larger than each size. So I have 5/16, 3/8, and 1/2 inch. And I already have the material cut. And instead of punching these and making a whole bunch more ball punches I don't really need, I think I'm going to try to drill them to see how that looks. It may be too sharp in the top, but I think it's worth a shot. I am actually going to forge a ball punch because I do not have a bit that is that size. So make sure I don't get too far out of whack. Perfect. So I am sitting right at 5/8 on the outside of that, which is perfect. Now I just need to drive that into the other. So far, that is looking really good. The heads stick up just a little bit. They could be a little bit tighter, but that's probably me just eyeballing my rivets. I didn't really measure them out. Now I'm shooting for like 1.5 times the diameter, but I have not checked it. I've just been guessing. I threw these ones in blind just to see what they look like against steel. Now, one is 5/16, one is 3/8, and I think that's fine because they're only 1/16 difference in between them. So I'm just going to use the same headering tool to make both. So it's going to leave the same size head but different size rivets. I don't think that's a big ordeal. All right, so I have my bottom dies forged now, which are the same as the top. I mean, there was nothing to them except I just had to do them on the anvil. Now these were starting to get away from me, and I actually just decided to use this right here to stabilize them. So I set them inside here and struck them. It worked out pretty good. Now in the future, I want to make a saddle. Goes across the anvil that actually stabilizes these so these can't move. So that's going to help a ton. I don't have time for it today. But here's the ball punches I used. This is the 5/8, and then this is the half. So I can do 5/16, 3/8, and 1/4 inch rivets. And here's the other side. Now these, I ground out the outside to make them a little bit easier to where they're working a little bit tighter. Now these are not hardened yet, but they are annealed. Well, not annealed, normalized. So they're ready to be hardened. Like I said, I don't have time for it today, but I think that they worked really good. I'm happy with them. And one day I will probably do one for 1/2 inch, just so I have it. So that's going to be a 3/4 inch ball punch I need to make, which is actually pretty easy because this is 3/4 inch stock. So whenever I go to do that, I just have to be a little bit more careful that I drill these center. Well, I hope you enjoyed this week's video. It was a little bit of an experiment trying to figure out which sizes I needed, but it worked out in the end. I appreciate you watching. I'll see you next week.